In today's video, we're going to talk about when it's time to give up on women, when it's time to throw in the towel, not permanently, but for a while, when it's time to focus on other areas of life, on your fitness, on making more money, on getting your shit together outside of dating, because for a good amount of people who are watching this, you shouldn't be focused on dating. There are exactly 4 excuses that you can have that somewhat justify not trying to improve your dating life, giving up on women. There are 4 excuses. Number 1 is you live in a small town. You live in a city that has like 500 people. There's no major college or university there, and there's no one to approach. That's a pretty legitimate excuse. And if that's the case, until you move to a better city, or if it's, look, if you have a 60-minute commute to a major city, you can still go out on the weekends and try to make something happen. But if there's no major city anywhere near, or you don't have a car and you live in a small town, there's no women to approach. What are you going to do? There's no women to meet. So your first priority should be getting out of that scenario, out of that situation, and into a better city. The number two reason that you have a valid excuse not to try to improve your dating life is if you're massively overweight. And I'm not talking 30 pounds overweight. I'm talking like 100 pounds overweight. If you're 100 pounds overweight, your number one focus should be losing that weight. Like, that is dragging every area of your life down massively. And of course, it makes you significantly less attractive to women. I have seen examples of men who are massively overweight, and yet despite that, still could pull cute girls on occasion. But it is going to hamper that success. It's going to definitely reduce it. The amount of women who are open to the idea of dating you is going to be significantly lower. So that's the second one. Massively overweight. And I've been technically over the obesity threshold. I was like 29% body fat when I weighed 215 pounds. Even then, I was still able to do very well and pull girls who had amazing bodies. And I'm thinking, wow, I feel kind of disgusting because I'm looking at me. And then I was like, you know what? Actually, it makes it hotter. But anyway, that's besides the point. Third one is if you're completely broke, right? You like live with your parents, you have no income. Basically, your financial situation is dog shit, and you have to eat ramen every day and you can barely afford rent. Then that's a survival need, and that should be your number one main focus. And then number 4 is, and this is the most important one, this is actually the most legitimate excuse, is if your mindset is extremely toxic and negative towards women, towards socializing, towards yourself. If you're just massively depressed, you live your life just like on the screen and like doing nothing all day, and you're like complaining about yourself, and you think that women all hate you, and you have negative thoughts towards women, and you don't socialize, and you just have, you like black pill content, you resonate with that like, that feels real to you. If that's you, then yes, your first focus should be getting your life together, developing some hobbies, ideally social hobbies, and improving your mindset, like reading self-improvement books, psychology books, inspiring biographies, reading more, consuming Netflix and Hulu less, playing less video games, learning an instrument, those kinds of things. And then most importantly, instead of just doing cold approach, if that's you, you're like a toxic, very negative, like women don't even want to socialize you, and you have no female friends in your life at all. If that's you, start going to meetup.com groups or any kind of social occasion that isn't about dating or approaching women. It's just about meeting people with similar interests, right? Going to like yoga classes would be a good example. There's hiking groups. There's meetup.com has tons of different options. Start doing things that are social and then involve interacting with people. And then when you get to a point where your self-esteem is, from a 1 out of 10 to like a 4 out of 10, where you still kind of hate yourself and you still kind of hate women, but you have some positive thoughts and you're making progress, you can feel the sense that you're going in the right direction, then throw in cold approach. But the funny thing is, those first 3 excuses, the best way to deal with them still involves going out and approaching women. First of all, if you live in a small town, you should just get out of the small town. Get a sales job where you can make 50 plus K a year. It's not that hard. I mean, if you really suck at getting a job, you can just get a cell phone sales job where you can make like $25 an hour. That's enough to pay for rent in a medium-sized city like Tucson, Arizona, where I was born and raised. You could pay for rent with just a cell phone sales job. And then you're in a city that has people, that has women you can meet and women you can approach. That should be your first priority. If you're in a small ass shitty town, get out of there and go to a mid-tier city, like a B-tier city Tucson's the first one that comes to mind. You can leave in the comment section other examples of cities that have like 100 to 800,000 people, but cheap rent, right? They're in a state where the rent is cheap, but they have a university. Any university is going to have a ton of hot girls. Any university that has more than 20,000 students, that city is going to be decent, if not actually really good for pickup. So if that's the case, get out of the small town and move and then start doing pickup. But that should only take a week, 2 weeks. Like, you should get that going. Number two is if you're massively overweight, yes, you should focus on losing weight. One of the best ways to lose weight is walking. There was a period where I lost more than 30 pounds. I think it was almost 40. Mainly, what I did is I just started walking a couple hours a day. That was the only habit change I made, is I started walking consistently. And while I was walking, guess what? Well, I walked on my university campus. And that meant I was able to approach women while I was walking. You can choose to go somewhere where you can approach women, right? You can go to your college campus. You can go downtown. You can go to a busy park. You can go to a mall, do some walking, and also socialize. And if you're massively overweight, don't expect to be pulling hot girls left and right, but you're making progress in both areas simultaneously. And that way, when you do lose the weight, when you do get into decent enough shape, what's going to happen is you've already made a lot of progress. You've gotten over your approach anxiety. You're starting to get some numbers. You already have the fundamentals to some level taken care of. It's going to be easier to get results. Whereas if you just wait, I'm only going to focus on getting into shape, you don't approach women, you don't socialize, you don't make moves in that area, then even if you get to where you have an 8-pack, you're going to have this huge deficit where you haven't been taking action. You've been avoiding this for months, maybe even years, and you're going to feel like you're starting at zero, and it's going to be infinitely harder. So that I would not recommend. And then the other one is if you have no money, you're completely broke, best job to get to make more money is sales. And you know what's really helpful with sales? If you can do cold approach. Those two skills have so much in common. There's some differences, but they have so much in common that if you get good at one, it's going to help you get good at the other. So if you're completely broke, you get a sales job and then you spend some of your free time approaching women. I mean, maybe even you have a door-to-door sales job and there's a hot chick at the house, who knows? Or you could be a canvasser. That's what I've done in the past. I was a canvasser for political campaigns, or you could be a promoter for clubs. And guess what? You can approach women as part of your sales job. That's ideal, right? That's the ideal. Or you get a sales job at like a cell phone kiosk in the mall. Don't be aggressive, but you start chatting up girls, and if they seem receptive, you get their numbers. So you're doing both at the same time. But in general, if you're doing a sales job, going out and approaching women is going to make you better at sales. It's going to make you more confident, and vice versa. Doing sales is going to make, because you have to face that fear of rejection. You do get rejected constantly. You're constantly being social. That is going to improve your pickup skills. So if you're completely broke, I get it. But the best way to change that is to get a sales job. And if you get a sales job, that's also going to improve your game. So the only scenario that is a legitimate excuse in my mind to give up on dating temporarily is if you hate women, you have a very black pill mindset, incel mindset, very negative thoughts towards women, you have very low self-esteem. If you were to rate your self-esteem, it's, a 3 out of 10 or lower. In that case, I would focus on developing a better lifestyle, socializing with women in a platonic context through something like meetup.com. And once you've done that to a point where you're starting to feel more social, starting to, your self-esteem is improving. Let's say you're working on giving up really toxic habits like playing 8 hours of video games a day, which I've done in the past. Didn't help me get laid, and my life sucked when I did it. I used to play, Halo 3 to an almost professional level. I tried out for a team and they wanted me to do a second tryout. And then I played World of Warcraft for, it was at least 8 hours a day for a phase of my life. And, I was pretty high rated in that, not to brag, but what did that get me? Right? What did that get me? It was a total waste of time. And that's why my self-esteem was low, because I knew putting all this time into that when I'm not in good shape, when I'm making no money, when I have no dating life, that is going to increasingly make you feel more and more depressed, because it's all getting worse. It's not staying the same. It's getting worse. It's getting worse the more you avoid it. So if you have extremely low self-esteem and are extremely antisocial, work on your self-esteem by developing good habits, things like meditation, reading, developing a side hustle, learning instruments, going out and socializing, those kinds of things. Start joining meetup.com social gatherings And then once you're out of that deep hole, then you can start focusing on cold approach and on dating. But that's the reality, is that if you're someone who thinks you should give up on dating, thinks it's just not going to work for you, in this video, you really wanted to click on it and hoped, deep down, hoped that you were someone who should give up and that you have an excuse not to try, what you really need to ask yourself is, did you ever try in the first place? Because you can't give up on something if you never tried. If you haven't approached at least 100 women, you can't say you've tried. And I've approached 100 women in 2 days before. It's not like it takes some extreme time commitment. You could do that in literally 2 days. If you haven't done that, why are you thinking about giving up when you haven't even tried? That's the message for this video. That's something I really want you to think about. And if you want structure to start moving this in the right direction, you want a specific guide that takes you from point A to point B, that acts like a personal training regimen, but for your dating life, that gives you all the specific steps to take, then make sure to click the link below to get a copy of my online course, The Spark, that is available for the next 5 days for only $7. And that has a complete 30-day challenge to getting this handled, to starting to have success in dating, to getting out of that phase where you're making excuses and not really taking action and it's all analysis paralysis. All you have to do is follow those steps and you'll start having success. All you have to do is commit. You buy the course dirt cheap, $7. It's going to go up to $47 in 5 days. But right now you can get it for $7. Commit that you're going to watch the videos and you're going to follow the challenge. It's not even that hard. It's not like 100 approaches a day, or it's not that hard. But if you do it, I promise you, you will see an exponential increase in your dating results. And all you have to do is commit that you're going to follow the plan. That even when you don't feel like it, you're just going to do it. Your emotions are not part of the equation. You're going to take the actions, trust the process for just 30 days and see what happens. And if you make no progress and you're not getting any results whatsoever, then you can give up. Right? Then you can say, you know what? I can give up. I got nothing out of that. I did all the approaches. I took action, got nothing out of that, went nowhere. Okay, I give up. At least then you can respect yourself for making that decision to some degree. At least then it's based on having tried and not just giving up before you even started. And I also want to mention that this is the Spark 2.0. So it has all the original content that if you already got the Spark when it was available, it has not been available to purchase for quite some time. But if you already got it, this is the Spark 2.0, which has over 10 hours of new content. This is not what you had before. It is significantly more. And it also includes live group coaching calls with me, where we're going to talk about the major topics in pickup. And you get to participate in that, ask me questions, and not just be on the sidelines passively consuming, but actively being a part of the content, of being invested, of having skin in the game, and not just being passively on the sidelines, which is far more powerful. So make sure you click the link below to get access to that. And if you missed the live calls, well, they're going to be gone because I'm only doing those once. So make sure to act now.